Okay, we are live on Facebook, and Commissioner Windmiller, we can begin when you're ready.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Commissioners to order. Myra, would you read the roll, please?
I think you're muted.
Sorry. Myra will be right with us. She was
Great.
just alerting me to something.
Okay.
I believe they're trying to get Commissioner Brown pulled into the meeting.
Okay, now I see their faces like it normally comes in. But
Good morning.
now I can hear you.
Good morning.
Yes. But I'm just going back and forth right now. It says meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. A recording. Okay. All right then. All right. Thank you.
Are we ready to move forward?
Yes.
Well, I'll try that again then. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We are going to open the Board of Commissioners meeting on Friday, January 26th. Myra, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Windmiller,
Present.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Here.
Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Simmons,
Here.
Commissioner Gully,
Present.
Commissioner Galladay,
Here.
Commissioner Costello,
Present.
Commissioner Cox,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Beach.
Here.
Thank you. Also, special welcome to former Commissioner Aaliyah Holman. And actually, our first item on the agenda is actually a presentation that will be presented to a proclamation that will be presented to the former commissioner who has recently left the board. And the board and I will make some remarks, but I'll turn it over to Talby Roach first.
Good morning, everybody. So as you can see, I'm actually standing in my office, and maybe you can see just over my left shoulder the resolution, which is nicely framed and properly executed and so on. But there's one thing about papers. Papers are one thing, but the real issue is, and the real issue that I rely all of you on, are those important connections to communities and important connections to new ideas and new thinking. And certainly the world that we're in right now has some of that new thinking. I want to recognize that some of the new thinking and ideas that have been brought into my head were from Aaliyah Holman. And certainly, especially concerning the ideas of equity. Look, let's be very honest about what we do. We present transportation all across the metro area, and equity and importance and access to community is a critical part of what we do every day. And having those voices pushing us to do better is, quite frankly, it's a challenge, but it's something we desperately need. And at least with the 18 months that I had with Aaliyah, she was one of the leading voices in helping me find that voice, find the folks in our community that we need to serve and be vigilant about. And I just want to thank her for those individual efforts. And of course, go through this modest presentation of this resolution. So thank you. Thank you, Aaliyah. I just want to personally thank you for the critiques and for pushing me to be better at what I do. And I want to thank you for your service to the community. Chair Windmiller.
Thank you, Talby. I'd like to add just a few things, and then I'll turn it over to other board members, some of whom who have worked with Aaliyah for much longer than I have, although I've known Aaliyah for some years. I've always been incredibly impressed, not just with her professionalism and her talent and her obvious commitment to community, but also her even-handedness, her ability to bring things to the table that sometimes the rest of us hadn't thought about. I've learned a lot from her in the year and a half that that I worked with her. I'm incredibly grateful that she committed to this for such a long period of time. And to me, the most heroic thing about her was that she went through the entire, pretty much last year of her tenure as either being pregnant or having a new baby at home, holding down a full-time job, taking care of a family, and being vice chair and chair of the board. So in my book, nobody has done more for this organization than Aaliyah has. And I am grateful to her and grateful to her family for allowing us to have her for as long as we did. So thank you, Aaliyah.
You are too kind. I know that the people who give blood, sweat, and tears every day would argue with you on that front, but I really appreciate the sentiment. It's really been a pleasure to work with all of you and to serve my community in this way. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Are there other board members that would like to make a comment?
I'd like to say, Commissioner, I'm really gonna miss you. And I really appreciate your help on everything that we've talked about in the past and going forward. I'm just gonna really miss you and the baby, seeing the baby pictures and everything. But most of all, I'm really gonna miss you. You have touched me in ways that have really helped me to progress in just being on the board, period. So I just want to thank you. And I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah, and very kind words and very true words already spoken, but Aaliyah, you'll sorely be missed, and we need more people like you, especially young leaders in this region, to step up for public service. It's not just the time we put in attending these meetings, preparing for these weekends or for these meetings. You took many calls before meetings with me, after meetings, just to kind of pick our brains, try to work through some of these very complex issues to try to improve the organization and kind of advance the mission here for the region. So we could go on, but I just want to say personally, I will miss you, and certainly the board will have some shoes to fill here. So good to see you one last time, and I'm sure hopefully I'll see you around town, or I'll see you at a future event, and we'll be sure to keep in touch. Okay.
Indeed, it's my pleasure. And I know that Nate's got the job covered, so it's good to see you there.
If I could just add briefly, thank you, Aaliyah. I echo everyone's comments. You were generous with your time. You were generous with your wisdom. But I particularly appreciate you always put those we serve first and called us to remember what our purpose is in terms of those we serve and why we're here. So thank you, and best of luck with all that comes forward.
Thank you.
Leah, this is Herb, and I'm kind of sad because from my first meeting on the board, I knew right away that you had those leadership skills, and I had learned so much in the short time, and I was looking to learn a lot more, but I'm really happy for you, and best of wishes to you.
Leah, it's a pleasure working with you. We kind of walked this journey together for some time, and it was a pleasure, and I hope our paths continue to cross. I will miss your lens on the commission. You brought great value, great insight, great direction. Until we meet again, I hope it's soon. Be well.
Thank you, everyone. Aaliyah, any last words for us, particularly words of wisdom?
I don't know about words of wisdom. All I know that I can say is that I have never worked with a more honorable and passionate and committed group of individuals than I have through my experience with Bi-State. And it's really been an honor and a pleasure to work with all of you and to serve this region. And I'm just so excited to see what comes next and the new energy that gets infused and all of the new leadership opportunities. So thank you all. And I'm gonna go sit down.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Leah.
The next item on our agenda is public comment. I will say that we have received several public comment cards, but unfortunately, due to some inappropriate and sometimes offensive language that is contained in some of the comment cards that were submitted, we really can't read the comment cards in the entirety of the meeting. However, I would like to note that the commissioners have received copies of all the comments. The entire text of those communications will be contained in the permanent record, in the minutes, and they'll be added to the meeting materials on the website at the conclusion of today's meeting. The comment cards that were received were from the following individuals. Caleb Coy, the topic was to defund or abolish the Metro Police. Gary Newcomer, the topic was too much security on Metrolink. And Kathy Boykin, the topic was security on Metrolink. Myra, have we received any additional comment cards this morning?
Yes, commissioners, overnight, we received 3 additional comment cards. The first is from Mia Solomon. Her topic was policing does not make transit safer. The second was from Mitch Eagles. His topic was Black Lives Matter. And the third was from Gina Becknell, and her topic was public safety funding. Those were also emailed to each of the commissioners this morning so that you can see the context in full. And as noted previously, at the end of today's meeting, all of the comments will be included in the meeting packet that is online, so anyone can go on and see all of the comments in their full context.
Thank you. Thank you to all the people who submitted comments. We appreciate the comments. We take them seriously. We listen to your voice, and we often turn those subject matter items either to the attention of the board itself or to the staff who can appropriately address them. So thank you for the comments from the public. We appreciate them, and we certainly look into the matters that are addressed in public comment. Anyone else from the board have any comments about the public comment? Seeing none, I will move on. We need an approval a motion to approve the minutes from the April 24th, 2020 Board of Commissioners open meeting. A motion to approve, or if any board members have changes to those minutes. Hearing none.
I will move to approve the minutes. Sorry.
Thank you.
Second.
Do we need a roll call, Myra?
No, a voice vote is fine.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. We move now to item 5, the minutes from the May 21st, 2020 special meeting of the Board of Commissioners open meeting. I need a motion to approve unless there are changes to the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes. Fred.
Fred abstains?
Yeah.
Thank you. We move now to the report of the president and ask Talby for comments.
Morning, Commissioners. So I have several issues to update you with. I'll try to be brief. First of all, as not only a result of positive public comment and of course of policy initiatives that the board has requested and also a response to COVID, we did roll out a pilot program on a mobile app for ticketing, and that was out actually Monday. So far, this has been received very positively. We've had staff out, and Jessica may mention this in her talk today, just on how that's being uploaded. There's a lot of appreciation for it, and I think it's a very worthwhile pilot, and we're very excited about it. I also sent to you, and actually very excited and proud that we did, moving through on the bond refunding, we received a AA2 high grade rating in our bond refinance. I want to note that although that probably will not be picked up by the media or anything like that, it has to do with the fundamental budget discipline and hard work, even in spite of what's been going on as far as COVID. And I just wanted to thank staff, in particular Mark Vago and Tammy Fulbright, with their hard work on this in keeping the integrity together and moving us through that normal process. Also, I have good news associated with FY21 budget appropriation. We are moving through all three funding partners positively. We have made adjustments associated with reductions in sales tax and supplementing that with CARES Act funding. I've also specifically talked with the FTA regional administrator about this strategy, and he has endorsed it fully. We believe that this will allow us to move through FY21, this very challenging year, and keep our system stable and give that stability essentially not only to our employees, but of course the customers that we serve, with the idea as keeping transit stable so that we allow time for our economy to recover and that fundamental service is still there. Also, I wanted to mention that the St. Clair County extension, the package for engineering is out on the street, and we had a pre-con with that with nearly 50 individuals on the phone. So we're very excited about that. And so far we're moving through that process, although not perfectly, because we're trying to move it along as soon as possible in parallel tracks. And I want to thank, of course, St. Clair County for their great partnership there. Also, as we went over on the Metro Security Subcommittee, we did get a report from WSP, and then that report was also given to the TOG, so the Transit Advisory Working Group, and with East West Gateway, a meeting that I attended earlier this week. And for the first quarter, this was a very good report card, the one that you want to put up on the refrigerator. Now, I'd love to say that that's a result of my work, but it's not. It's the result of the G4S new contract. It's a result of our TSS, Transit Security Specialist, of Kevin Scott, Vern Summers, and Steve Berry. They have done an excellent job with being relentless about improving security, and I think this is the new paradigm. I want to add that, for instance, we are moving to a security paradigm that is more ambassadors, so less oriented as far as our folks are concerned, and more ambassador and customer service. I'm really proud that we're somewhat ahead of that curve. I think that the critiques by the public are certainly legitimate, and we need to react to those, and we certainly are doing that on a detailed basis. I also want to mention that at the Security Subcommittee and at the request of Chair Windmiller, I've asked Steve Berry to look at additional equity training associated with our frontline security employees. So we are moving forward on a training module that is being, that right now is titled Training for Change and Understanding. This has its basis in 2 different curriculums from the Kellogg Foundation and from APTA. So we intend on moving forward on that for our frontline employees on the train and the bus to try to move that level of training up. I've talked to Jessica Meffer-Miller about this as well in the interest of trying to expand that program company-wide. So we are just getting it off the ground. However, I think not only because of the need of the company, but also at the request of the Board of Commissioners, we are moving on this item, and I hope to give a more thorough briefing at our next Security Subcommittee meeting. And that really concludes my remarks this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Talby? Seeing.
Quick question. Will the training also be available for commissioners?
Sure. Yeah. So, so the initial module is obviously aimed at our frontline employees on the security side. I've been talking to executive staff about this and actually have asked Chuck Stewart's assistants in HR to think of how we can expand this module, not only in operations, but also in headquarters. And then subsequently, sure, I think it's a great idea to move to the commissioners. I certainly would react to your pleasure as far as that's concerned.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gully, are you interested in perhaps having a training session for, or was it just the materials you wanted to make available, or that we should possibly be involved in training ourselves?
Well, my thought was if it's a module, then commissioners, it may be something that commissioners can access through the LMS system at their pleasure and not necessarily be required to have an additional meeting or session, but just have access to the training.
I like that. I like that idea. I would definitely support that as well.
Hearing no objection, I will work on that and look at expanding the module so that that is available for the commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you for your report, Talby. The next item on the agenda is a report of the Combined Operations Committee and Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee. Commissioner Zimmerman, will you report, please?
I will, and good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. A combined meeting of the Operations Committee and Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee was held on May 21st, 2020, immediately following the special board meeting. The draft minutes of the meeting are included in your board packet today under tab number 7. We are introducing today 10 items on the consent agenda for your consideration, and under item number 10 with the committee's recommendation for approval. And the consent agenda items are A through J, and they should be in your agenda. They're quite numerous, so I'll give you a second to kind of look through them. And in addition to numbers A through J, we are also presenting one additional item for the board's consideration with the committee's recommendation for approval from the March committee meeting under Unscheduled Business, which includes contract award for paratransit certification and administrative services, and that would be resolution number 1073. Additionally, from the May committee meeting, several reports were provided to the committee, including, and I'll just go ahead and list those: Treasury Safekeeping Quarterly Accounts ending at December 31st, 2019, Treasury Safekeeping Quarterly Accounts ending on March 31st, 2020, Internal Audit Follow-Up Summary, third quarter fiscal year 2020, Internal Audit Status Report, third quarter fiscal year 2020, Internal Audit State Safety Oversight Status Report, first quarter for calendar year 2020, pension plans, 401k retirement savings programs, and OPED trust investment performance practice as of the end of last year, December 31st, 2019. We also got reports with financial statements, treasurer's reports, procurement reports, and a Metro Transit operations report. That was quite a fully loaded meeting for those of you who were there, but it was all good information. And this concludes my report as chair for the Combined Operations and Audit, Finance and Administration Committee meeting.
Thank you, Justin. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'm going to move then to the report of the Security Subcommittee. And I actually will give this report as well. The meeting of the Security Subcommittee, two meetings were held actually, one on May 14th at 12:30 p.m. and another on June 11th at 8:30 a.m. The draft minutes of these meetings are included in your board packet today under tab 8. We are introducing two items on the consent agenda for your consideration today. Under item number 10, with the committee's recommendation and approval. The consent agenda items are A, the Metro System Security Strategy, Resolution number 1067, and B, the Ride and Abide Policy, Resolution number 1068. In addition, at the June 11th meeting, Ms. Lorraine Stewart from WSP provided the committee with a summary of the most recent WSP scorecard for Metro Transit related to progress concerning security updates for the system. Stephen Barry, General Manager of Public Safety, and Kevin Scott, Director of Public Safety, gave updates regarding response and coordination to the recent protests and an update regarding the June 29th Belleville station incident. This concludes my report as co-chair of the Security Subcommittee. I'm happy to entertain any questions or comments. Hearing none, I'll move on. The next item is the adjustment of the consent agenda. Are there any adjustments that need to be made to the consent agenda at this time? Hearing,
I have a question about a couple items.
certainly.
Items F and G. May I ask questions about those at this time?
Sure.
Hobby, or Jessica, could you explain that a little bit? Is F where the employees are screened with the wand by their forehead, and G is the machine? Is that, it seems a little redundant. Is that contract for both items? You're on mute, Toby.
Hi, item F is the Brightstart contract. Brightstart is the contract that we're currently utilizing for our employee temperature scanning. And so that is personnel who are located at most of our major operating facilities.
Okay.
That's labor. And then item G is the temperature portals. And so that is the process that we'll be moving to once we discontinue the Brightstart contract. And there will probably be a little bit of overlap.
Okay.
I would just note that the portals have been well received, Terry. And as a matter of fact, there is a portal that that we use for headquarters that will then be available if and when we ever get to our public meetings, in which we can screen the public when they come in as well. So this has been a pretty successful program so far.
So the overlap will eventually disappear.
It will, yes, Commissioner. So we actually have a committee consisting of benefits team members and our safety department that is developing operating procedures for those temperature portals for each of our operating facilities, including the location, placement, and the supervision of those portals. And so once we have an acceptable procedure in place, it seems to be working well, we will discontinue the Brightstart contract. The reason for this shift, commissioners, is because of the cost associated with the Brightstart contract. It is very labor intensive and therefore very expensive. In fact, at most of our operating facilities today, we actually have a bus idling throughout our entire span of service so that we can conduct those temperature scans outside of the facility, but in a temperature controlled environment. The portals are located typically inside the doors, or in the case of headquarters, inside a major entrance to our workspaces. And an individual passes through the portal, and there's an audible beep that indicates whether they have a temperature that is above 100.4 degrees.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions related to the consent calendar? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve items A through L.
I move to approve items A through L on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Myra, is this a voice vote or a roll call vote?
Mute.
Hello?
I'm sorry. I was on mute. Yes, it's a voice vote.
Oh, thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Motion carries. The next item is item 11, the contract award with DMS Contracting for the Emerson Park and Belleville Metrolink parking lots, Resolution 1069. I would like to ask Chris Paler and Larry Jackson for comments.
Good morning. As part of our pavement maintenance program, staff has been working with St. Clair County Transit District to rehabilitate a number of Metrolink parking lots in Illinois. These projects are funded by an FTA grant, and St. Clair County provides the local match. This particular contract's for the Emerson Park and Belleville Metrolink stations. We attempted to bid it previously, didn't have any luck. This most recent bid was in May, and we received 2 bids, one from DMS Contracting, and then the low bid was from Harlan Company. After reviewing the Harlan bid, it was deemed non-responsive. The disadvantaged business enterprise goal was 21%. Harlan was not able to achieve that, so that bid was again deemed non-responsive and thrown out, which left us with a single bid with DMS. Since we had a single bid, we were able to convert this to a negotiated contract. So we negotiated with DMS to try and get their price down. Their bid came in at just about or just under 1.5 million. We're able to negotiate them down to about 1.35 million. And that's fairly close to our independent estimate. And the disadvantaged business goal, as I mentioned, was 21%. And their commitment is for 29.6%. So they significantly exceeded that. So recommendation is to authorize the president to enter into a contract with DMS. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, I need motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Simmons abstains.
And Commissioner Simmons abstained. Thank you. Next item is the Newsted Avenue grade crossing signal system modifications, Resolution 1070. And Jessica Mefford Miller and Chris Paler are going to speak to this issue.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have before you a request to approve a contract with Wishesher Inc. for $357,137. This is for signal work that will be undertaken at our Newsted crossing. This is in cooperation with our Central West End project, which is a partnership with Washington University and BJC. This signal work will allow the grade crossing at that location to continue in operation with the improvements that have been made and are underway at the Central West End. Wishesher is a firm that we also use for very similar work at our Cortex Metrolink station in 2018, and we're confident in their capacity to execute this specialized work. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Hearing none, I ask for a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And please make a note that Windmiller abstains. Thank you. The next item is an item that was not, information on this was not included in your hard copy packet, but it was sent, emailed to all of the commissioners separately on Wednesday, and it's been updated on the website. This is the issue of the MOA for the Metrolink extension to Mid-America, Resolution 1071. And I'll ask Chris Paler for some comments, and then I know commissioners have some questions about this.
Very well. As Colby had mentioned earlier, the procurement for the design services for the extension of Metrolink from Shiloh Scott Station out to Mid-America Airport is out on the street now. This agreement on this paper seeks authorization to enter into an agreement with St. Clair County Transit District for that project, for the design and construction of that project. A little bit of background. When Metrolink was extended in Illinois in the late 90s, early 2000s, the original plan was to go from the 5th and Missouri station all the way out to Mid-America Airport. So those plans were developed for that full alignment. Due to funding constraints, initially the project was only built out to the college. At that point, Belleville Area College, now Southwestern Illinois College. And then later we received funds from the state of Illinois to extend it from the college out to Scott Air Force Base, which opened in 2003. The plans were always, as I mentioned, completed all the way out to Mid-America Air Force Base, and we even separated them such that a separate package from Shiloh Scott Station out to Mid-America was available. And it's been sitting essentially on the shelf as a finished package for the last 18 or so years. As of last year, the state of Illinois enacted the Rebuild Illinois Capital Plan, and they included $96 million for the design and construction of this Metrolink extension project. These funds will flow from IDOT to the St. Clair County Transit District. So it's a St. Clair County Transit District project. So in order to initiate this project, a few things will have to happen. As I mentioned, the plans have been on the shelf for a while. The first step to get the project going again will require us to update all the environmental work. Most of the alignment will remain the same as it's planned now. However, just with the passage of time, the environmental work will have to be updated. I wouldn't anticipate that being a significant effort, but it will take some effort. And there will be at least a couple of changes to the alignment. Reeder Road interchange has been further developed since this alignment was initially adopted. And there's been some work, additional parking and improvements around the airport. So that'll need to be changed as well. Also, St. Clair County would like to add an access road as part of this project to go from Reeder Road to the airport. So that'll be a change as well to the scope of the project. So those items will require additional environmental, but they're along the same path. So again, I wouldn't expect a significant amount of increased work, but they will require some work. And obviously there will be design associated with those efforts to make those adjustments to the original set of plans. St. Clair County will be fully responsible for all of the costs associated with this project, from initiation all the way through design and construction. Once the project's completed, approved by state and approved by the state safety oversight, then they would transfer ownership of the projects over to bi-state, and it would become part of our system as the rest of the Metrolink system. So St. Clair County has approached us about managing both the design and the construction of this project. And we've started to develop, and we have not yet finished, unfortunately, developing a memorandum of understanding as to how we would do this. It's based generally on the memorandum of understanding we had with them for the projects that we completed for the initial alignments out to the college as well as Scott Air Force Base. Obviously, the funding is a little bit different. Back then, the funding for those previous extensions, the FTA funds came directly to bi-state, and the state of Illinois funds actually came to bi-state. These funds are going to St. Clair County. So that's why we've had to modify the MOU a bit, and that's still going back and forth between the two parties. So in general, we've broken this down, or the plan is to break it down into phases, and we would give them a proposal for our efforts to manage each of those phases. The first phase being procurement, which we're going through now. As Toby mentioned, it's out on the street now. And so we give them a proposal for how much time it would and effort it would take by our staff. For the procurement phase, they would approve it, and then we would invoice them on a monthly basis, and they pay for our services. Similarly, as we go through design and construction, same type of thing. We put together an organization, send it over for them for approval, and then we would manage those phases, and then testing and startup as well. So they would, we would not do the design ourselves. The procurement, as I mentioned, is for a design firm. Design firm would do the actual design, and obviously we put out the construction packages and have third-party contractors perform the actual construction work. We would just be managing all of these services on behalf of St. Clair County. So that's the MOU that's being developed. We hope to have it shortly, and then we can hopefully enter into these agreements and move the project forward. So that's the recommendation, is to allow the president and CEO to enter into this agreement for the bi-state to provide these project management services to St. Clair County Transit District for the design, construction, testing, and startup of the Metrolink extension from to Mid-America Airport.
I have a
Questions?
Yeah, in conversation with Mr. Sharkey at the transit, as you stated, Chris, there are some outstanding items of significance to be resolved. The MOA has not been approved by the Transit District Board. Their attorney has some issues, some concerns, and I know there's been some give and take. For that matter, I like at this time, if it's appropriate, I'd like to make a motion to table this until the next appropriate opportunity to bring it up, at a full meeting or a committee meeting. So I move the table at this time.
I'll second that motion unless we have more discussion now, but I believe what Commissioner Beach is saying, and I think that's the prudent thing to do if those concerns are really outstanding. So
I agree.
My internet connection was a little bit wonky. We have a motion and a second approval of this item to the next board meeting, or is that the motion?
I move the table until the next board meeting, if that's the appropriate format. If council advises there should be a better wording, I will so agree.
Again, I didn't hear the motion.
I'm not opposed to this. I'm making a motion to table it at this time and bring it up at the next meeting.
And that's fine and appropriate.
Okay.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second on the floor to table this item to the board meeting. It's open for discussion if anyone has any comments, questions.
If you could just clarify, Commissioner Beach, exactly what they need to vote on in St. Clair County, I guess, that we're tabling it for?
They have not voted on the MOA because they have not received back any revised suggested language or verbiage, is my understanding. Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and their attorney still has to review it. The Transit District has an attorney.
So technically, the way the MOA is written is for you all to authorize me to then enter into this, what would be a bigger agreement, a memorandum of understanding. And that is completely accurate, that is still under negotiation. And inevitably it is, because quite frankly, we don't know what all the details are encompassed with this project. The Reeder Road issue is still to be resolved. And for instance, the flow of funds is different than how we had done it several years ago because of Illinois state law. So unfortunately, we're also trying to work under the pressure of the timeline to try to move this project as quickly as possible. And sometimes those parallel tracks make it a little clunky. So that's certainly on, I think, on us and on the normal course of this business. I would, of course, prefer for the MOA to be signed, but I want everybody to be happy and comfortable with a large agreement. So I can move to try to be sure that the details are negotiated a little bit more thoroughly. And of course, I meet with Mr. Sharkey on a regular basis, and I'll continue to push the project along.
Any other comments or questions from board members? Hearing none. We have a motion and a second on the table, so a vote on tabling this issue to the next board meeting. All those, I'm sorry, for this, do we need a roll call or a voice vote?
It's fine. Just have a voice vote.
A voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Simmons abstains.
Any abstentions? Thank you.
Simmons. Did you copy?
Motion.
Simmons abstain.
Thank you. We did.
Thank you.
Motion carries, and this will be taken up at the next board meeting. The next item is a Metro Transit Operations Report. Jessica?
Good morning again, Commissioners. We have been very busy since we last came together on May 21st. Today, I'd like to give you a brief overview of the status of our system performance, ridership, and budget adherence. I'd like to give you an update on some of our COVID response items, our recovery planning activities that have happened since May 21st, and some of the restoration activities we have planned for the month or two ahead of us. So first, with respect to ridership, we now have 11 months year to date of our fiscal year of ridership, and we are down system-wide 13.8%. So just a reminder, we began this calendar year in January and February with pretty strong ridership. We were encouraged by that. Of course, then COVID occurred. And so at this time, we still find our state of ridership in a depressed state. Our Metrolink ridership remains down about 70% at this moment, and that's compared to early March of 2020. Our Metro bus remains down about 50%, and Call Ride is down about 46% and is growing. In the last couple of months, we saw ridership grow in May, and we were encouraged by that. We saw a slight decline in ridership in early June. We, of course, don't have the full month of June in yet. That was somewhat expected because on June 1st, we did resume front door boarding and fare collection aboard Metrolink. And please recall that from March 23rd through May 31st, we temporarily suspended fare collection on Metrobus, and that induced a little bit of demand. So we're seeing that level off in the month of June. We do anticipate ridership to continue to grow as businesses return to more normal operations over the course of the coming months. With respect to budget for our first 11 months year to date, we are below budget in expenditures for transit by about 5.7% or $17.1 million. Our passenger revenue, of course, is also lagging behind budget. We are down nearly 10% in passenger revenue, and that's about $3.2 million loss relative to our expected proceeds. I want to give you an update on our COVID response. We are continuing all of the mitigation measures that we have previously been discussing, including vehicle and facility cleaning, employer temperature screenings, providing our team members with personal protective equipment, testing employees who are symptomatic, quarantining employees who may have been exposed to any team members that test positive for COVID. On yesterday, we announced that we would extend an employee incentive program that we've been offering since April through July 19th. I want to commend the dedication of our frontline team members and all of the team members here at Bi-State and Metro Transit. They have demonstrated tremendous resilience throughout the COVID crisis and a commitment not only to our customers, but a commitment to one another as team members. I expect this team to continue to show resolve and continue to sustain the energy to move through this crisis. Because of their dedication, we have been able to gradually restore service. On June 15th, we expanded frequency on 20 different Metro bus routes. We were operating at a little over 70% of our normal Metro bus service level. We also expanded frequency on Metrolink. And this coming Monday, June 29th, we will also restore service on several of our temporarily suspended Metro bus routes. So we're looking very much forward to that. Those routes include the number 2 Red, the number 13 Union, the number 14 Hanley, and the number 58 Chesterfield Valley. In addition, we will add frequency on 7 other Metro bus routes to begin to move those routes closer to our normal level of service. As we make these decisions about service restoration, we're looking very closely at our trends in employee attendance, our ridership, and openings and schedules of the many different businesses and service markets that we serve. We'll gradually make small adjustments to service as demand dictates and as our employees return to work until our next scheduled service change, and that's going to be August 31st. In August, we anticipate that we will be operating about 85% of our regularly scheduled service. The precise composition of that service is going to, of course, vary. We'll monitor the service change on Monday and see where we need to add additional service. We'll have an additional service change per our normal course of business in late November 2020. And finally, we expect that in March 2021, we will have resumed normal service. Even as we move through COVID response and service restoration, we're also continuing our program of planned projects, including the rollout of Metro Reimagine and significant adjustments to our customer-facing technology. As Mr. Roach mentioned earlier, on last Monday, June 22nd, this past Monday, we rolled out a mobile ticketing pilot. That is a temporary program that we created very quickly with a firm called Masabi, and that's allowing customers to purchase a one-ride ticket or a 2-hour pass with a mobile device. And this was done very quickly, in part to account for the fact that we're not distributing paper transfers at this time on Metrobus. The reason we're not using those transfers is to reduce the operator customer contact as we move through COVID. Now, elimination of the paper transfers has long been and remains an objective of our new fare collection program. We are continuing to redesign that fare collection program, and we anticipate releasing a comprehensive request for proposals for services and infrastructure this summer. So I look forward to continuing this small pilot by impacting fare collection across our entire system, inclusive of Metrobus, Metrolink, and Metro Colorado. We have been talking about demand responsive service, and as you'll recall, last fall, we launched a pilot program called Metro Connect with Lyft to provide first last mile connections in markets where fixed route no longer had a presence. We recently, this commission approved a contract with a microtransit firm called VIA. I'm pleased to share with you on this Monday, June 29th, we'll begin our initial service with VIA in South St. Louis County during morning through late evening, and then in greater North St. Louis County for late night service. That's especially important for connecting customers to and from work who are working third shift or very early shifts in the morning. The South St. Louis County service is intended to improve mobility options for customers who are traveling in a geography primarily outside of the 270, 255 outer belt, providing them with local mobility as well as connections to our Shrewsbury Metrolink station. We have taken great care to create that service area to include major destinations like hospitals such as Mercy South and major retail and grocers on the south end. And the north end, we're including both employment destinations and the very large residential concentration that we serve in those communities. We are hopeful that these additional layers of service will improve mobility across our service area. Both of those services have a mobile application and telephone access. I also want to mention that these different services that we are providing, like that mobile payment, are stitched together with our transit app. So customers can seamlessly plan and pay for their trip from a single interface that is supported by transit. So a lot of exciting things still happening, even as we move through COVID. We'll talk in just a moment about our battery electric bus program. We had minor setbacks in our production schedule, but we are continuing on with our infrastructure project at the Brentwood Metro Bus facility. And we are very actively designing our Broadway and Taylor Transit Center right now with a company called New Flyer that's manufacturing both our articulated battery electric buses and the inductive charging equipment that we'll have at that facility. So this calendar year, you'll begin to see the introduction of those electric buses to our fleet. As we look ahead across operations and administration for Bi-State Development and Metro, we also have companion recovery plans for all of our administrative teams. If you visit one of our facilities, you'll find that they have primarily returned to normal operations. We've got different teams functioning in different ways. For example, our customer service team, which is typically located here at our headquarters location in a very dense area, they're still working entirely remotely. And I want to commend that team and our IT staff, because very quickly back in March, we transitioned from in-office to remote work, and they've been able to provide our customers with information, guidance, and reassurance throughout this transition in a very different work environment. And I think the team has done a marvelous job of working together and finding ways to be productive and be responsive to our customers. I shared last night with you, commissioners, an invitation to attend employee appreciation events. We started early this morning at 4 a.m. distributing meals to our employees, and we'll continue to do that this afternoon, tonight, and next Monday and next Wednesday. It is so important to let our frontline and near frontline team members know how much we appreciate them and how much we support them. We as a Metro team and with the leadership of this board are truly in this together. And I think the team has done a tremendous job of performing. With that, I want to pause and ask if there are any questions about our operations, performance, recovery, or ongoing projects.
I have a question. Are you still practicing the safety of the mask?
Yes. Since May 11th, since April, our team members have been required to wear masks. And since May 11th, our customers are now also required to wear masks aboard Metrobus, Metrolink, and Metro Coloride. We're continuing this mask requirement. This is our single greatest defense against the spread of COVID-19. We're providing our team members with a steady supply of those masks. And we have also been doing bursts of mask distribution to our customers. And this is really important because those masks do become, even the reusable masks do become tired and in need of replace. And thanks to the Federal Transit Administration, we have received now 2 deliveries of cloth masks. They come in, they're washable, they come in packets of 5. And so we're out on the system distributing those to customers. We anticipate continuing to do this. The end of the mask requirement is uncertain and is not in the near future.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Jessica, I've got a question related to that. How are we handling, unfortunately, it just escapes me why, but some people still refuse to wear masks in confined spaces. How are we handling when we have a customer that refuses to wear a mask? Hopefully it doesn't happen that often, but it's something that, I just curious as to what we're telling our employees as to how to proceed in that situation.
So Commissioner, our operators are authorized to refuse boarding to customers who are not wearing masks. This is easier, of course, on bus and Coloride where we have an operator at the door. And we have also encouraged our operators to reach out to public safety and handle de-escalation of the customers who aren't wearing masks. And this has been a challenge, certainly. Not everyone wants to wear a mask, and the mask does become a lightning rod for some people. So our public safety team, inclusive of transit security specialists and G4S contract security guards, have been trained to request that our customers wear masks. And if they refuse, they can be removed from the system. We haven't had any altercations where customers are forcibly removed from the system. They generally comply. or choose to exit the vehicle. We've also equipped some of those frontline security team members with supplies of masks so that they can hand a customer a mask if they don't have it. So what we're seeing, it's not 100% compliance, and I don't want to represent that it is. We are seeing a significant level of compliance, the mask requirement, very high compliance for our own team members, and decent compliance for our customers, and our safety department is conducting spot checks of that. So to the extent we can get most people wearing masks aboard our conveyance, we are significantly reducing the likelihood of spread of COVID-19. Other questions, commissioners?
Jessica, this is Commissioner Simmons. Can you give a brief, what seems to be the pulse of the frontline workers during this COVID crisis? I mean, how's the morale going with them?
So, you know, it by and large is pretty positive. It depends, of course, on a team member's level of exposure. We have taken care in our last couple of service changes to structure our schedule such that they don't have this long split that we've talked about. So their day is a little bit shorter. That makes it easier for them to obtain adequate rest and time away from work so that they can care for their family at home, recover, and be prepared for their next shift. They're appreciative of the personal protective equipment, but they are especially appreciative, and I want the commission to know this, of the employee incentive that is making the challenges they face a little more palatable by being able to bring home that extra income each week. That's critically important. They need to know that we as a leadership team now more than ever are with them and supportive of them, and that's why these events over the next few days are important. We're having frequent conversations with them. We do periodic information blitzes. We just did a mask requirement reminder to remind our customers and team members of how to wear a mask, because there are a lot of different shades of having that mask all the way on. So continuing to try and bolster their energy and keep them motivated, and where there are issues or concerns, we're working to address them expediently.
Very good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One more question, Jessica. How do you do the social distancing?
So
I mean, like when you get on the bus, is it a change when it comes to social distancing?
Yeah, so Commissioner, we're limiting our bus capacity to a seated load. That's still pretty tight quarters. We're also limiting seating around the operator. So customers are always seated well over 6 feet from the operator. The precise configuration depends on the vehicle. We're having customers generally more than 6 feet apart on Metrolink because we have more capacity there. And when I've talked earlier in our conversation today about adding trips and adding frequency, we're targeting that frequency to be so that we can accommodate social distancing. So we're monitoring ridership, but we're also having our operators in real time call into our bus operations control center and report if they are nearing a seated load. And we use that information to slide in additional trips on those routes at select times of day. So our service profile looks different right now. The service frequency looks different, and it's deliberately designed to accommodate demand and permit some social distancing.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate your attention to everything and your report. We're going to move to unscheduled business. Before I go to the actual items that are listed in your packet on unscheduled business, I'm going to apologize first for something I was remiss in not doing at the beginning of the meeting, and that is to introduce our new commissioner. It's his first board meeting, Mr. Nate Johnson. Nate is the president of Real Estate Solutions Group at Red Key Realtor Leaders. I want to welcome him to the board for having gotten through most of the business part of the meeting without introducing him.
Welcome, Nate.
Thank you. I'm honored to be a part of the team, and I'm looking forward to certainly helping our region achieve an effective, as we have, an effective and increasingly safer system. I love St. Louis, and I'm passionate about economic development, and obviously having a system in place that is useful for the community is paramount. So I'm encouraged and excited to be a part of helping that happen.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Welcome to the board. We have a couple of items under unscheduled business. Please note that the information for the next two items wasn't included in the hard copy packets, but the information was again emailed separately to commissioners on Wednesday and has been updated on the website. Both of these items were discussed in some detail by Jessica under her operations report, but I'm going to ask her to discuss in more detail the contract award between the Paratransit Certification and Administrative Services Resolution 1073.
Thank you, Commissioner. So Metro has undertaken a process by which we're working to improve our responsiveness to our disabled customers and to the disabled community. We have a team called the ADA Services Department, and they provide a number of services internally to Bi-State and externally to our customers, including program and policy guidance, as well as customer-facing things like assessments that make customers eligible for paratransit services, travel training that is intended to equip and empower our transit customers to make use of fixed service where accessible and where possible for them, and to create a comprehensive ADA program, including an ADA transition plan, and also the issuance of reduced fare permits, both for our aged and our disabled customers. So we have over some time evaluated the operation of this function and have deemed it appropriate to seek external resources for some of those performance, things like our travel training and our assessments that require in-person visits with our customers, often by someone trained as an occupational therapist. We consulted with many of our peers across the country on best practices, and with that, we developed a request for proposals. We did receive one responsive proposal from a firm called MTM Incorporated that happens to be based here in St. Louis, and we seek the board's approval to enter into a 3-year contract with MTM for amount not to exceed $3.581 million to provide services including ADA paratransit certification and our reduced fare identification and travel training programs. Our existing ADA services staff would take on a role that is more policy and advisory in nature, working very closely with all of our operations teams, because we must do better at serving our disabled customers. We must be more efficient. We must be more comprehensive. We must be more consistent. Some of this is going to include training, as well as input into the design of all of our programs, from vehicles to stations to technology. That group is led by our ADA program coordinator, Amy Parker, who has just done a fantastic job in these last couple of years as she has taken on this role and is helping lead this transition. Are there any questions about this MTM contract request or our ADA program? And by ADA, of course, I mean Americans with Disabilities Act. I apologize for jargon.
Any questions, comments? Hearing none, I ask for a motion to approve the contract.
I motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The next item on unscheduled business is the contract award between Gillig LLC for the purchase of 6 battery electric buses, Resolution 1074. And again, this is Jessica.
Commissioners, we have before you a request to authorize a contract with Gillig, who is our primary bus manufacturer for diesel. This contract would be for our first battery electric contract with Gillig. This is for the purchase of 6 40-foot buses at a total of $971,398 per bus, plus a 5% contingency on bus design. This is part of our overall battery electric program, which is funded primarily 80% by federal funding from formula sources, and now our 3 successful low or no vehicle application awards. Since we last came together, I'm pleased to share with you that Bi-State successfully competed for another low or no vehicle emissions award. So that's bringing in more than $2 million additional dollars to help fund our program to support our buses and our infrastructure and our inductive charging units at our various facilities. This would be the first delivery of 40-foot battery electrics and is in addition to the 14 60-foot battery electric buses that are already in production with New Flyer. These would initially operate out of our Brentwood Metrobus facility and would rotate across routes served by that facility in the city of St. Louis and St. Louis County. Are there any questions?
Are these in addition, I guess, to the other, was it 14 that we had ordered?
Yep, that's right. Those 14 are 60-foot articulated buses, Commissioner. Those are in production now, and those will be in service on our 70 Grand route. These 6 40-footers are going to rotate throughout the system.
I see. And then I guess my other question is this the same company that was producing those?
Nope, this is a different company. So this is Gillig. We partnered with Gillig actually on our low or no vehicles emissions application. And Gillig is relatively new to the battery electric market, though they are far from new to the bus market. They are currently our largest manufacturer for our existing bus fleet. We have a strong working relationship with them, which is why they chose to partner with us on this federally funded low-no program.
I guess my question was then, why did we go with the other company for the other 14 and then we're going with this one for
Yeah,
these?
it's a good question. Because the other vehicles are the 60-foot bus, and Gillig doesn't currently manufacture a 60-foot battery electric bus. So we looked at firms including New Flyer, Proterra, and BYD for the other contract because they have 60-foot bus battery electrics not only in production but already in service.
Okay. And the battery life and all that is similar, I guess, or is good as out?
Yeah, it is. And we'll have to make use on some of our routes of that inductive charging where we pull the vehicle out in the morning and it would otherwise be too low on battery life to extend throughout the course of a day. We need them to run about 250 miles. And so they'll hit our Broadway Taylor Transit Center at the north end of the city of St. Louis to recharge on their layover throughout the day. And we've been very deliberate at designing the routes that they would operate on, the nature of the charging infrastructure at the depot and at the inductive point so that we can continue on our service profile, which is very efficient. You know, we pull our buses out in the early morning and typically on a normal basis outside COVID aren't pulling them back until late at night. That helps us keep our operating costs low, and working with these manufacturers on the design of the batteries and the charging infrastructure is going to allow us to maintain those efficiencies.
All right. Good info. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica, Commissioner Simmons, were either of these companies the ones that were replacing the buses over in Illinois?
Yes, Commissioner. So I believe Gillig is the company that's replacing the buses in Illinois, and they have we have an existing contract with them. So the new buses that are coming to St. Clair County, Commissioner, are a piggyback on an existing Gillig contract.
All righty, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Jessica.
Pleasure.
May I have a motion to approve the contract with Gillig, please?
Simmons, so moved.
Galladay, second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. The last item on our agenda today is committee appointments, actually.
Hey, I've actually got something for unscheduled business. This is Commissioner Zimmerman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty simple question for Talby. And thanks for the June 8th update, Talby, on the loop trolley. I just wasn't sure where we stood currently, and I just had a quick question. You know, specifically, if they restart operations, if we're just operating under the old agreement, if we're gonna, you know, renegotiate a new agreement, and you know, we don't have to rehash every single issue. But I've had issues with that agreement since back when I raised them with Ray Freem and John Nations in 2017. So I just kind of wanted to check in and see, you know, kind of what the plan was with respect to that, pursuant to, you know, your June 8th update.
Right, sure. We are just providing minimal safety support services associated with our existing relationships with what is SSO, which is State Safety Oversight. In fact, a couple of members of the team are meeting over there right now just to be sure that that safety document is in place and is set for them to operate. Then they will operate, as in the Loop Trolley Company, on a very limited basis, just Saturday and Sunday service. I double checked with our crew to be sure that any of this essentially courtesy good neighbor service in conjunction with a request specifically from FTA would not be too much of a burden as far as the amount of hours. And I've been assured by both Andrew Giassi and Steve Berry that this is something that they can handle within the scope right now without adding any personnel or anything like that. I can, it would make sense to update an agreement should this role continue in the future. And I'll be happy to do that and let you review that. I just wanted to be sure that, you know, just in the interest of disclosure, that's why I put that June memo out, to be sure that you all knew on this minimal basis. And that's the extent. Obviously, the board has made its intent clear to steer away from the project, and I've continued to do that, except simply on this safety certification.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I don't mind, like you said, being good neighbors. I don't mind lending a helping hand. I, you know, don't wish them ill. It's just maybe I'm misunderstanding a little bit, but you know, before, my concern was making sure we were properly accounting for the amount of hours, manpower, work we were putting into it, and then second, how we were going to be compensated for that based on the agreement. And it was pretty clear that we weren't necessarily being fully compensating or fully compensated, excuse me, or maybe properly accounting for everything. So is this truly just safety oversight? We're not going to go be performing any maintenance. We're not going to be over there during a trolley cart breakdown. I mean, how's it going to work?
That is correct. This is, we are strictly on that side of the house. The larger memorandum of understanding in which we did some of those maintenance and, for instance, the procurement issues and so on, that agreement has since expired. And so that is no longer in force and effect. However, I do intend on billing for the time associated with the safety oversight. So I do have, we are accounting for that time. And it is accurate, just in full disclosure, to mention that under the previous agreement, we did, the loop does technically owe us money, and I'm not optimistic about getting that back. So.
Yeah, and this is not directed specifically at you. I had this same conversation with Ray Freem, and he promised me we'd get paid for our, you know, our union workers over there, and it just, you know, I was skeptical since 2017. So I'm sorry for the, you know, additional questions here. I just want to keep on top of it. That's all reason I'm asking. So.
Very good. I'm happy to do so.
Thank you.
I'm happy for the questions too, because I do remember that the original agreement included a much larger scope of work. And I specifically asked Tully to assure me that that MOU expired, or that Bi-State would be responsible for would be a paid consultancy based on state safety oversight. And my knowledge, Talby, that is what this covers, correct?
Yes, Commissioner, and I'm sorry, you're coming in and out a bit, so I missed part of your question. I apologize.
Okay, well, the question I had was that the original MOU included operational and procedural pieces that were not part of this agreement. And this agreement is strictly a contractual obligation for the Loop Trolley Company to pay us for safety inspections. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Great. Any other questions on that issue? And Commissioner Zimmerman, thank you for bringing that up. Hearing none, can we move on then? Just one last item under unscheduled business, and that's on committee appointments. They've been made for 2021. Commissioner Nate Johnson, our new commissioner, has agreed to serve as a member of the Audit, Finance, and Administration. In addition, Terry Beach has agreed to serve as a member of the Operations Committee, and I will be serving as chair of that committee.
I'm sorry, Rose, you kind of cut in and out.
I'm sorry. I think my internet connection is not good today. I'm talking about committee appointments that have been made for 2020. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay. Committee appointments for 2021. Commissioner Johnson will be on Audit, Finance, and Administration. Commissioner Zimmerman will chair that committee. Commissioner Beach will be on the Operations Committee, and I will serve as chair of that committee. Myra Bennett will be emailing an updated committee list to you this afternoon, as well as updated contact lists for board members. And again, I apologize for my connection. For some reason, it's unstable today. Calls for future meeting dates. Myra, could you please give us those?
Yes, the next upcoming meeting is a meeting of the Executive Committee regarding bond pricing. That meeting will be held on Tuesday, July 7th at 1 p.m. We will have a Security Subcommittee meeting on Thursday, August 13th at 8:30 a.m. An Operations, Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee meeting on Friday, August 21st at 8:30 a.m. And the next Board of Commissioners meeting will be held on Friday, September 25th at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you. I need a motion that this committee go into executive session for the purpose of discussing legal, confidential, or privileged matters.
Motion.
Second by Simmons.
Permitted under Bi-State Development Board Policy Chapter. Thank you. We have a motion and a second.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
Commissioner Windmiller.
Aye.
Commissioner Beach.
Yes.
Commissioner Cox.
Yes.
Commissioner Gully.
I think she had to leave.
She dropped off.
Commissioner Galladay.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Zimmerman.
Yes.
Commissioner Costello.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. We'll see you all in a few minutes in executive session.
Okay, we are live again on Facebook and we can start. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm reconvening the Board of Commissioners meeting on Friday, June 26th. We've reconvened to open session. According to our board policy, no final action votes will be taken in closed meeting or closed executive session. For items requiring final action, a roll call vote shall be taken in open session. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from April 24th Board of Commissioners executive session as a closed record?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Galladay,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Aye.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Costello.
Abstain.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 21st, 2020 Board of Commissioners special meeting executive session as a closed record?
So moved.
Second.
May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Costello,
Aye.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Aye.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Galladay,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yeah.
Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the agreement between Bi-State Development and St. Clair County Transit District for communications and 9/11 centers at the Emerson Park Metrolink facility, Resolution 1072?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Galladay,
Yes.
Commissioner Costello,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Aye.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. If there's no further business, I would request a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
So move. Second.
Thank you. Do we need a roll call vote? Okay.
Voice vote.
Voice
All
vote.
those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you all. Have a
Thank you.
great and safe and happy holiday.